I was doing so well. 3 solid months of budgeting. Then my car broke down, I got a surprise medical bill, and I basically said, forget it, and stopped entirely. You quit because you had 2 bad months in a row? It felt pointless. Like the budget couldn't handle real life. The budget handled exactly what it was supposed to. The emergencies happened. You absorbed them. The budget showed you clearly what was affected and why. That's not failure. That's the system working. Then why did it feel like everything fell apart? Because you were judging the budget by whether every month is perfect. A budget is not for perfect months. Perfect months don't need a budget. It's for the hard ones, so that when things go sideways, you have a clear picture of what happened and a path to recover. I just didn't know what to do after the bad months hit. That's the gap. Nobody teaches the recovery protocol. Everyone teaches how to start a budget. Almost nobody teaches what to do when it breaks down. NerdWallet has tracked budgeting behavior in its annual financial wellness surveys and found consistently that most people who try budgeting for the first time abandon it within the first 2 to 3 months. The most commonly reported trigger for abandonment is not that the budget was too complicated, or that the method was wrong, or that income was too low. The most commonly reported trigger is a month that went significantly off plan, an unexpected expense, a period of overspending in several categories, a life event that disrupted the financial picture, followed by a feeling that the budget was now pointless or broken beyond recovery.
The budget did not break. The expectation broke.
A budget is not a contract with yourself that requires you to hit every number in every category every month in order to count. A budget is a plan. Plans encounter reality. Reality is imperfect. The plan's job is not to prevent imperfection. It is to make imperfection visible and manageable, and to provide a path back to stability after the disruption has passed. A budget that has been through 2 bad months and is still running is more powerful than one that has never been tested because it has already demonstrated that it can survive the conditions it was built for.
Here is the recovery protocol, a step-by-step process for what to do when a budget month has gone badly off course.
Step 1. Look at what actually happened without shame or narrative. Open your banking statements or your budget app. Look at each category. Identify which ones exceeded their ceiling and by how much. Identify which ones were underfunded for the month relative to what actually came in. Write down the specific dollar amounts. This step is often the hardest one psychologically. The impulse after a bad financial month is to avoid looking at the specifics rather than to examine them. But you cannot address a problem you will not look at directly, and the numbers are almost always less catastrophic when examined concretely than they felt during the emotional experience of a difficult month.
Step 2. Determine the nature of the disruption. Was this a one-time event, a car repair, an unexpected medical cost, a travel expense for an emergency that is unlikely to recur in the coming months? Or was this a structural gap, a category whose ceiling was consistently too low, a regular expense that was not included in the original budget, an income shortfall that indicates the budget's income baseline was set too high? These require different responses. A one-time event means the budget was otherwise sound, and the response is to rebuild the affected savings category over the following months. A structural gap means the budget itself needs revision before the next month begins.
Step 3. Adjust next month's budget before it starts. If the disruption revealed a structural gap, the groceries ceiling was genuinely too low, A monthly expense was missing from the budget entirely. Fix the budget now. Do not run next month on a plan you have already identified as inaccurate. The revision may require reducing another category to accommodate the accurate one. That reduction is not a punishment. It is the budget becoming a more accurate map of your actual financial life.
Step 4. Rebuild. If your emergency fund was depleted to absorb the disruption, identify a specific monthly amount to redirect toward rebuilding it. If a savings goal was interrupted, recalculate the timeline and adjust the monthly contribution to compensate over the remaining months. If a debt payment was missed or reduced, make the recovery payment as soon as possible and resume normal payments. These are maintenance actions, not fresh starts. You are not starting over. You are continuing one step behind where you expected to be, which is a completely normal place to continue from.
Dave Ramsey has said in his Total Money Makeover framework and in countless radio programs something that is worth taking seriously. Go back to the budget tonight. Not next month. Not after things settle down. Tonight. The period between a budget breakdown and a deliberate return to budgeting is the period during which the most damage is done. Not from the original disruption, but from the unstructured spending that fills the gap while the budget is officially suspended. Every day without a plan is a day that spending happens by default rather than by decision. The recovery begins when the plan resumes.
George Clason, in The Richest Man in Babylon, wrote about a student who lost his savings to a bad investment and had to rebuild from scratch. His teacher's response was not consolation but instruction. The loss was real, and the rebuilding must be methodical. Save the same share. Keep the same habits. The discipline is not in the perfection of the outcome. It is in the return to the practice after the setback. That instruction, offered in a parable set in ancient Babylon, describes the correct response to a modern budget breakdown with complete accuracy.
There is one additional element of budget recovery that most guides omit: the lessons. Every budget breakdown contains specific actionable information about the gaps in your financial plan. The car repair that wrecked the budget reveals that the emergency fund is underfunded, or that a vehicle maintenance sinking fund is missing. The medical bill that disrupted the month reveals that the health-related budget categories need a real ceiling and possibly a sinking fund for expected deductibles. The overspending in dining out that recurred for the third straight month reveals that the dining ceiling is set below your actual consistent spending and needs to be adjusted upward, which means something else needs to come down. Each breakdown is a data point. The budget that survives several breakdowns and has been revised in response to them is more accurate and more resilient than the first month version that has never been tested.
The Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances shows that financial resilience, the ability to recover from financial disruptions without long-term damage to household stability, correlates more strongly with the presence of a consistent budgeting habit than with income level. Households that budget consistently and return to budgeting after disruptions recover from financial shocks faster than those that manage spending without a defined system.
Your budget did not fail. You had a hard month, possibly two. The hard months were always going to come. The budget was built for exactly that. Go back to it tonight. Look at what happened. Fix what was inaccurate. Rebuild what was depleted. And continue. So the budget falling apart isn't the problem. Quitting when it does is the problem. The budget is supposed to survive hard months. It's literally what it was built for. Look at what happened without shame. Identify whether it was a one-time hit or a structural gap. Adjust, rebuild, continue. That's the whole recovery protocol. It's not complicated. It's just rarely explained alongside the budgeting basics. I stopped because I didn't know what step 2 was after a bad month. Most people do. They know how to start. Nobody told them what to do. After month 3 felt like a failure. I had 3 good months, and I threw them away because 2 hard months made me feel like it wasn't working. 3 months of budgeting that survived a breakdown, and you quit. That's the most expensive part of the whole story. I'm going back to it tonight. That's always the right answer.